been in COVID-19 protocol in Spain, not just 2 goals in extra time to beat Croatia 5-3 in Euro 2020. I'm Brian Fenley.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
Well, we're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me today. We've got a lot of stuff planned for you. It's funny because I've kind of been out of the mix. That whole vacation thing going on kind of threw me off a little bit. When I walked back into studio today, I was like, I got to remember how to do this. I laugh about that. But we do have stuff planned for you today. We're going to try to attempt to have a good show. It's what we do every day here on the Rundown, and we appreciate you joining us today. As always, you're welcome to join us on the phones at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Today, we're going to play the What If game. Yes, we're going to look at some college football teams, and we're going to talk about what stands between those teams and a national title. But I have to start, before we get into the football, which, by the way, we're at a point now where we're almost to talking season, ladies and gentlemen. The 1st of July is what, Wednesday? Something like that? Yeah. So 1st of July is Wednesday. Means we're 3 weeks away from SEC Media Days, ACC kickoff. The college football season is upon us. So strap in, kids. We're almost there. All right. So we will be live at ACC kickoff from what I'm told, meaning that if the ACC has their stuff like they've said they're going to, yeah, we'll be up there with that. Myself, Lawton Swan, we'll all be up there talking to the folks from the ACC. Brandon Online says, when is SEC Media Days? Right when ACC Media Days are, buddy. The 21st and 22nd. JW welcomes me back into studio. Thank you, sir. You can join the conversation. Go to the Fox Sports Radio Facebook page and follow along right there. All right, so we got to get into this stuff with we'll have some college football what-ifs. What's it going to take for certain teams to win the championship? But I got to start with something that's kind of weighed on me this weekend with the College World Series. And of course, it's Vanderbilt being in that World Series against Mississippi State. And it's not just because it's Vanderbilt and Mississippi State. I'm not into the realm of this team's playing, that team's playing, but the way that they ended up there with NC State basically being put into the mix there as they're going to be out because of COVID. It's just not what you want. Not what you want. I got to play a comment here from the coach from NC State. He was asked about the vaccine and what his policy was, and he basically told the reporters in a polite way, yeah, I'm not discussing any of that with you. But here's what he said. So we'll play this first. This is Coach Elliott Avent from NC State.
You said that you couldn't talk about the events of today, but coming into today, did you require your guys or encourage your guys to get vaccinated? Did you have a policy on that?
I didn't say I couldn't talk about it. I said I wouldn't talk about it. We talk about a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? But it's not it's always been, I've been coaching for a long time, and I think I'm you can call it caretaker, you can call it babysitter, or the guy that the parents drop their young men off and leave in my care, and they've raised them to be the quality people that we recruit. And my job is to teach them baseball, make sure they get an education, and keep them on the right track forward. But I don't try to indoctrinate my kids with my values or my things that, my opinions. Obviously, we talk about a lot of things, but these are young men that can make their own decisions, and that's what they did.
Yeah, it's you hear that, and it's basically what happened to NC State wasn't very good. They had their 1 o'clock. They had their first game with Vanderbilt that was delayed because of COVID issues. They went out with 13 players, and one of their pitchers was actually the first baseman. And I tell you what, they almost pulled off the upset there, losing 3-1. Now, I'm not saying that NC State's the best team that's out there. I thought the best team in the tournament was Arkansas. NC State put Arkansas out. Okay? And I'm not taking anything away from Vanderbilt. I'm not taking anything away from Mississippi State. But the fact that the way that the Wolfpack were sent home just doesn't make any sense. There was a tweet from the NCAA saying, hey, tomorrow's game will be a no contest. Then the NCAA issued that statement. A group of about 30 minutes later at 1:40 in the morning Central Time, so 2:40 in the morning here, a group of NC State players gathered at TD Ameritrade Field and posed for pictures near home plate in front of the CWS logo. A spokesman for the NCAA was asked if it would have been that a late night visit would have been approved. The likely answer would have been no because of quarantine issues. Look, the more and more you look at this, the more and more it just looks like this is just an absolute mess. Here's my thing. NC State played Vanderbilt, okay? A couple of things. First of all, what if NC State would have beaten Vanderbilt? I'm just saying, let's just say that Vanderbilt didn't get the job done, and that's a little far-fetched, but if they didn't beat Vanderbilt, what happens there? Does the NCAA come out and say, you know what? We're just going to give the College World Series to Mississippi State because NC State's going to have to forfeit. You talk about a way to just completely screw up the integrity of the game. You think about that too. Then the NCAA tweeted out, thank you, NC State baseball, for a season full of memories. And they talk about the fact that that they did it on the recommendation of the health department there. But the health department said, no, we didn't do that. So the NCAA basically came up with their own narrative here. And I'm not saying they're out to get NC State. And I'm not saying that Vanderbilt doesn't deserve to be there. Vanderbilt's a hell of a baseball team. What I'm saying is that you've got just so many holes here. So many holes that it just doesn't make any sense. Now, what could the NCAA have done? Well, here's the thing. I don't really know. I'm not a medical doctor, but I understand, and I've talked to coaches about this, about contact tracing and things like that. Let's just be completely honest. If you're allowing fans in the stands without masks on, you've got all these people that are there breathing the same air. You don't think that that could have an effect if you're one of these people that takes the coronavirus very seriously. Okay, I think people are kind of fed up with the coronavirus. I mean, just to be honest, I've had the coronavirus. I take it seriously, but I think a lot of folks are in the realm of this is done. We're out of here. President Biden says hopefully by July, things could be completely out of the mix. Well, we're almost to July. But the week before July gets here, the NCAA goes out and says, you know what? Screw you, NC State. That's not what we're going with here. And a lot of it may have come down to some of the players were vaccinated, but some of them weren't. Some of the players that were vaccinated tested positive. It just seems like, I don't think they're out to get NC State, but just the way the NCAA handled it, not very good, especially considering the fact that they say they consulted with the health department. The health department says send them home. And the health department's like, yeah, we never said that. Never said that. Then tweet out about, thank you for the memories, NC State. You know what? If I'd have known all this was going on behind the scenes, I would have been an NC State fan when they're playing Vanderbilt in that game. Let's win this game, not because I want to put Vanderbilt in a bad position or I want Vanderbilt to lose. No, none of that. How about I just want to see the NCAA squirm as they have to cancel the rest of the College World Series? Or would this have just flown away in the night and no one cared? These are things you wonder about. Anyway, we'll take your calls at 803-978-1832. If you want to talk about the disaster that the College World Series has turned into, there you go with that. The disaster. And by the way, if you're a Mississippi State fan, I'm sure if you follow college baseball and you know a lot about Vanderbilt, they've got that heck of a 1-2 punch with the pitching staff with Kumar and Leiter. I mean, I think that's the best 1-2 combination in college baseball. Guess what, Mississippi State? You fought hard and you put out Texas and you've had a heck of a season too. What do you get? You get a rested Vanderbilt team. That's what you get because of this. So not only are they messing up NC State, but they're putting more of a pressure on Mississippi State. Now, I understand that, hey, they're on the team. I get that. But the reality is it comes back down to this. The College World Series is about attrition. Who's got the most pitching? Who's got the most depth? And when you give a team basically a reset button where they get extra days, that makes life a lot easier. Makes life a lot easier. All right, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. They've kind of turned Vanderbilt into like just a mess. Jimmy's online, says, I told you NC State had the pitching to win this a couple of weeks ago. Well, congratulations, sir. I think you're if you want credit for me on that, then that's fine. We can definitely give you credit on that. JW says, have you ever seen the NCAA do something right? I'll get back to you. I want to make sure that I'm completely completely accurate in what I put out there. They're just silly. All right, so for the rest of the show today, we'll talk about that, and we've got a couple of other things we're going to get into, but I want to do these college football. These are called the ifs list. This is from ESPN and Bill Connolly, who has been on the show with us before. But he talks about ifs for certain programs. What's between them and the games and the national title? Let's start with Alabama. Alabama fan online, I can't remember who it was over in the chat room, says, the only ifs are if Alabama doesn't show up. Bravo to you, sir. Bravo to you. The ifs for Alabama is Bryce Young ready? I think that's fair. They haven't had a lot of turnover, though. So, yeah, there's that. 3 of the top Heisman top 5 with Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, and Najee Harris are all gone. And I tell you what, man, that Alabama team was special with all those guys, but it was a heck of a thing to look back and be like, you know what? I got Najee Harris standing behind me here. I can hand him the ball. We could go a series where I hand him the ball on 6 out of 10 plays. We're going to be all right. I think people are going to miss that a little bit. Alex Outland winner, Alex Leatherwood, Remington winner, Landon Dickerson, and, of course, Jalen Waddle all gone. Alabama's got to fill those holes. So, yeah, I think that's fair. Let's look at some other teams here. Let's go with Ohio State. Ohio State, if insert quarterback battle royal winner is ready, who's going to be the quarterback? Who's going to replace Justin Fields? CJ Stroud, Kyle McCord, Jack Miller. Whoever wins that job, according to Conley, will likely play at a high level, but how quickly? So that's going to be big for them. Who's going to replace Justin Fields? So that's some interesting stuff there. Let's talk about the Georgia Bulldogs for a minute. And of course, you can respond to any of these at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. The what ifs, what's keeping them from going to win the national title? The Georgia Bulldogs betting at plus 800. If late year JT Daniels is full year JT Daniels. And it talks about the potential of JT Daniels and can he perform at the SEC level against the full SEC schedule. Now, remember, he was at Southern Cal and lost his job there and transferred out to Georgia. Final 4 games of the season, completed 67% of his passes, 15.4 yards of completion. Opponent adjusted 89.1 total QBR, ranked 4th in FBS over an entire season. And Conley thinks that Daniel, he says he declared both Daniels as the 2021 version of Mac Jones. So comparing him to Mac Jones, who obviously led Alabama to a national title. So some good things there. Boop, 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 boop. So that's going to be the big thing there. Also with the receivers, there's talk that they're going to go with Eric Gilbert and kind of put him into more of a role to be a guy that is going to catch more passes for them. So we'll see how that works out for Georgia. See how that works out for the Georgia Bulldogs. One thing you can say about Georgia, they've got a ton of talent at running back. You know, I think they're going to miss Pickens a little bit. But the secondary that they've got, even though bringing in Darion Kendrick, Amir Speed, they've got some blue chip guys that can play as well. But I think that if you had to pick a weakness for the Georgia team, it'd have to be the secondary. Even though they've got a ton of talent, they just haven't really played together. So some interesting stuff there for the Georgia Bulldogs. Well, we'll do one more team really quick here before we go to break. We'll come back. We got a couple more. Oklahoma. It talks about their secondary. They've kind of been rebuilt a little bit there. Can they get their secondary off the ground and get themselves squared away on that front? You know, Spencer Rattler has got some tool there. He's got 3 of his top receivers. Offensive line is full of upperclassmen. That offense is going to be pretty good. But it's the secondary that worries several people, including Bill Connolly here from ESPN. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the Clemson Tigers, the what-ifs for them, Texas A&M, Texas, and Florida. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Rundown. Great to be back in studio with you here at Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. We'll have more for you when we return right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I agree with you, Brock. I mean, they've got talent there. You know, it's not, I don't think it's an issue of talent with them. I really don't. I think it's an issue of consistency and playing together. And I don't know how much they played together. You know, hold on. I've got my notes on the Georgia running game because I'm writing a Georgia preview, by the way. Hold on, please. Let me look. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, you don't have a Todd Gurley, but you've got guys that can run the ball. I got to look. I had some stuff on Georgia. I don't know where my notes went, man. I really don't. It's like I lost all my notes. There's the guy. Thank you, Brandon. I mean, you got no love for Zamir White? I think Zamir White's great. Respectfully, I'd roll with Zamir White from what I remember of him. It's your team, though, man. You go with whoever you want, but I think White's all right. That doesn't sound right, does it? Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world in the iHeartRadio app. We're going through the what ifs. What's keeping teams from the national championship? We're going to do Clemson in a moment. Let's look at how about the Texas A&M Aggies. Here's the big thing with them. Who's going to be their quarterback? Kellen Lamond is not going to be there anymore. He's going to be playing for the Minnesota Vikings this year. Hopefully. So is it going to be Haynes King, Zach Calzada? What's going to happen there? They also have a remodeled offensive line. So that's kind of one of the ifs there about Texas A&M. He wrote up the Texas Longhorns. Does anybody think that Texas is going to be a team that we're going to look at and be like, all right, they have a legitimate shot at the national title? I don't know. But he had a couple teams in here I thought we'd go over before we went to Clemson. The Texas needs, of course, their secondary. It seems like a lot of people have issues with the secondary. Maybe we're just at a point where everybody's offense is so great that the secondary for everyone is screwed up. Maybe it's that. But he talks about the secondary there and, of course, the issues with the quarterback. Now, North Carolina. I laugh because I think you could throw all these teams in a bucket and see what happens here. But with North Carolina, a lot of their running game is gone, replacing Javonte Williams, Michael Carter. They've also got to deal with the loss of Diami Brown and Daz Newsome, who Daz Newsome was outstanding, by the way. So they bring in Tennessee transfer Ty Chandler. And I laugh because lots of folks are depending on transfers this season. You know, do you hear about transfers making big contributions, though? I mean, when I think of transfer quarterbacks or transfer players coming in the past, 5 years, you could talk about Joe Burrow going from Ohio State down to LSU. But as far as defensive backs go and other players, running backs, I mean, can you really name one that's come in and made a big, huge mark? So we'll see how Ty Chandler, the Tennessee transferring from the orange to the North Carolina blue, how will that work? And Emory Simmons, Kafari Brown, Bo Corrales, and Josh Downs. Yeah, those are North Carolina wide receivers. You probably didn't know that because they had too many other folks that were doing things at wide receiver. Those guys have to show out. All right, one more team before we get to Clemson here. Florida. I'm in the realm of, I don't think that Florida has the potential to finish. I think they have the potential, if Georgia slips up, that they could win the East, but they could also finish fourth, and I wouldn't be shocked. Not one bit would I be shocked. And I think it's because I think that Dan Mullen is a good X's and O's kind of coach, but I also think he is on a different planet. I think that's the best way that I can put it out there. I just don't trust Dan Mullen. You know what I mean? When I think Dan Mullen, I just think, all right, the guy, like, I'd want him as my offensive coordinator. You can have all of your silly in there. And I kind of feel that way about the Pirate down at Mississippi State. You can convince them both to be, look, I just want you to be my guy that handles the offense. But remember, it's the offense of X school here. You can have all this, silly stuff that you do, wrap it all in. I just don't really trust them both as, hey, you're the guy that's going to go out and represent my program. Just saying. JW Online, really? That's too easy. Tennessee transfer. North Carolina must pay better. Oh, exactly. I laugh at that. Did they get Chick-fil-A at North Carolina? Is the money go in the bags there? North Carolina got they gave away degrees for basketball and football too. Maybe you get degrees there, but you get cold hard cash at Tennessee. Anyway, the whole thing with Dan Mullen, I just don't trust him. But they're replacing a lot. The Kyle Squared thing down there, Kyle Pitts, Kyle Trask, probably one of the best wide receiving cores that they've had down there at Florida. Kadarius Toney, Trevon Grimes. Yeah. And then, of course, Trask back there turning all the knobs, making sure everything goes. I think losing all of that is going to be huge for Florida. Emory Jones comes in. This is interesting. He threw 70 passes, rushing for 74 times. So kind of a balance there. Brock Online says, I can't stand Dan Mullen. The guy can't take a loss. Yeah, he can't. Jerome says, I like Dan Mullen's post-game. Yeah, and it's the same thing with the Pirate. Remember the Pirate after the bowl game? He's down in his guys are fighting on the field. He's up taking pictures in the stands. That happens. Not buying any of that, man. Not buying any of that. But the Emory Jones thing, is he great? Because he's going to have to be. He's going to have to be. One other note, if turnover in the secondary is a good thing, Florida's pass defense wasn't awful, but it wasn't good enough. And without star corner Marco Wilson and last year's top 3 safeties, Todd Grantham has some holes to fill. Todd Grantham doesn't stay at colleges for very long, by the way. He's due to move on to somewhere else. What is he, like a 4 years at a college and he's gone? He doesn't really stay long anywhere. Not really a Todd Grantham fan either. Just saying. All right. We're going to do Clemson in one moment, I promise. I've got to do LSU here. The big thing with them is Miles Brennan, who basically had a small chance, a small window there last season. Can he play on that level on the big for the full season? That's kind of the big thing with him. He's battling sophomore Max Johnson for a spot there. Kayshon Boutte is probably going to be one of their top playmakers. But the other thing, too, is they've got a new defensive coordinator. Bo Pelini was there Ed Orgeron didn't interview half of the assistants that worked for Pelini because Pelini's just like, hey, give that guy a job. LSU's the team that could make the bigger jump there if they could just get their head straight on the defensive side of the ball. Talent's not an issue at LSU either. I promise after the break we're going to do Clemson, but I ran out of time here. But LSU is interesting, and then they've got the stuff with Coach Orgeron. If what he said is true, where he told a young man who said that his girlfriend was raped by Darius Geis, what was the quote? Girlfriends sleep with everybody. If he said that, LSU is going to need another coach. Go from the penthouse to the outhouse in less than 2 years. That's what Ed Orgeron's doing. All right, quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on the Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Thomas, you might have, I over the last two Florida coaches, I don't know. I have to look at that one. I'm not wearing a singlet. I'm wearing a t-shirt, man. Yeah, I don't know where the line, I don't know where you see the line dropping there, Alan. Help me out, brother. What book is it? Is it dropped to 3 or 3.5 is what I've seen. I've seen 4. I think by kickoff, it'll be even. I really do. If Florida loses 5 games, Dan Mullen is going to be they may Lane Kiffin his butt. He may get fired on the tarmac. They won't even let him ride the bus back. If he loses 5 games, stand by. Be worse than the whole Muschamp era. I believe that. Deshaun Watson didn't play in 2014 there, buddy. Brandon, you're missing that. Old pick 6 Stout played in that game. Watson didn't play. His knee was tore up. He tore up his knee in the first quarter. So that's when Watson came back with one leg and beat South Carolina. You only need one leg to beat a Gamecock. Oh, I know that loss chaps some Gamecock fans' butts. Still don't know what Dabo Swinney was doing sending Deshaun Watson out there, though. It was kind of stupid. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We're doing the ifs. This is I pulled some stuff from some comments that Bill Connolly put out on his article on ESPN.com. Having ifs for what teams have that are hindering them from getting to the national championship game or winning the national championship. We've talked about Alabama. We've talked about Georgia and Florida, all kinds of stuff. Here's the deal with Clemson. If DJ Uiagalelei and his receivers are ready, that's going to be one of the big things for Clemson this year. Now, of course, everyone's banking on what happened in that Notre Dame game and the Boston College game because he threw for 300 plus in that game. Here's my thing with that. I don't think you can base it just on that portion of the season. And everyone knew that, look, you're filling in for Trevor Lawrence. There wasn't really any it was solid in the quarterback room in that It was Trevor Lawrence's team. You're here because Trevor Lawrence has COVID. Okay? If Trevor Lawrence doesn't have COVID, you're probably not playing. So, and that's not to knock Ugunglele because he came in and played really well. 59 for 85, 781 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no pick. Didn't take a lot of sacks. And played a great game. But here's the thing. Last year he had Amari Rodgers. Last year he had Cornell Powell. And he had Travis Etienne. All those guys are gone. Now, I know the optimist says, well, Justin Ross will be there. Clemson has some guys that are finally getting into the upperclassmen portion of their careers. Frank Latson Jr., Joe Nagata. E.J. Williams is a sophomore. But you're going to have to figure out how to deal without having Amari Rodgers and Travis Etienne, who were basically release valves. All right, you've got Cornell Powell covered down the field. You've got some of these other guys that are covered. That's fine. I throw it out in the flat to Travis Etienne or make the quick pass there to Amari Rodgers, and the offense keeps moving. Who's going to take over those roles for Clemson? That's going to be a big deal. Now, one of the guys that they think can do that is Lynn J. Dixon. So, with Etienne averaging 12.3 yards a catch, Dixon's going to be looked to pick up some of the slack on that. Also, you got to look at freshman running back Will Shipley, who some people think that he is going to be the second coming. But I always have the mentality, until you prove it to me, then you are just potential. We can bottle up potential all that we want. And in the end, it's just a bottle of potential. And I'm not knocking Will Shipley. He may end up being the best Clemson running back ever. Don't come at me 3 years from now when he's chased down Travis Etienne, if that happens. Oh, well, you said that he wasn't going to be. No, I said that we don't know until he gets on the field. It's kind of the way that I feel with any of these things. If you had to sit me down and say, all right, who do you think are going to be the playmakers for Clemson? I know that Justin Ross can make big plays. Alabama knows about Justin Ross. So I would go with him first. 803-978-1832 out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, love your show, man. I think you are really overvaluing Cornell Powell. I mean, he was, a fifth-year senior who finally did something last year?
Right. Yeah, I get that, but he was a big target, and we need to look at it from that perspective as him and Lawrence, they did develop a rapport, and, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that. I mean, he was a viable option as far at the wide receiver part, so.
Well, I look at, a kid like Davis Allen. I think he's going to have a big year this year.
I think Azu is going to have a big year this year. When he's on the field, he looks like he's a monster. So that could be that too, you know?
And how about Kobe Pace? I mean, Kobe Pace is the running back I saw in the spring that really showed something.
Yeah, but I mean,
his size.
Yeah, I know, but the spring games, come on, man. A lot of times they don't mean anything. You know that.
Yeah, but I mean, Lynn J. Dixon really didn't show anything last year either.
Well, what was it? The young man that transferred to Wisconsin, his name escapes me. I thought that if he would have
Chaz
Lucy. Yeah, I thought he would have had a chance to do something, but things happen and then that doesn't work out. But I guess I agree with you on that front with Powell, but it's time for guys like Latson Jr. and Nagata to finally step up and say, hey, you know what? I want to be a big-time college football player. Because right now, they are definitely going to need it.
They got to stay healthy if they want to be on the field, though.
Can't make the team from the training room. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, man.
All right, here we go. Next caller. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
What's up, Rob?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Hey, not much, man. It's Danny from Louisiana, man.
How you doing, buddy?
So I'm doing all right, but I always watch on YouTube, first time caller. So I just wanted to touch a little bit. I know you really weren't touching on it, but I just want to talk about NC State a little bit. And
Yeah, we
the
talked about that
experience.
earlier. Are you talking about with the College World Series?
Right, correct.
Go ahead, man. What you got?
So you mean to tell me that those cats could have bought a ticket and watched the game with no mask, but they couldn't play on the field?
Yep. Hypocrisy at its best.
Man, So what would have happened if they would have beaten Vanderbilt in that first game?
That was one of the questions that I had. Do you just say, all right, we're not going to have the World Series? Congratulations to Mississippi State. And I'm not knocking Mississippi State. Insert any team that you want here. There's some Mississippi State folks on Twitter that are upset with me because I put something out about that. And it's like, you know what? It's any team. It's not just Mississippi State. The way the NCAA handled this is hot garbage. It's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And so what happens if a Mississippi State player tests positive tonight? What, they just going to hand that to Vanderbilt too?
I think we're making Vanderbilt the villain here. Vanderbilt's just just played. Now I'm going to put that out there because it seems like everybody's hating on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is doing exactly what the NCAA has told them that they had to do. Now, on the other hand, is Vanderbilt at an advantage now? If I'm a Mississippi State fan, I am not happy because Vanderbilt gets to reset that pitching staff with Rocker and Leiter. And if I'm a Mississippi State fan, I'm not happy. But on the other hand, and I hate to use this term, but it's a COVID year, and you just have to pretty much shut up and eat it. That's basically the only thing that you can do. And it's sad because I don't think it completely cheapens the College World Series, but it cheapens the College World Series.
Well, I feel like Vanderbilt was pretty much the front runner to take it all anyway, but there's always going to be an asterisk next to this year for me personally. And, you know, if this is going forward into football season, we're all in trouble.
I hope it doesn't do that. And I think a lot of universities are basically setting it up where to return to campus, you got to have your shots. And I know that sounds
right. You got to have your shot.
You got to have your shots now. But here's the problem that I have with this, though. There were NC State players that were vaccinated that ended up with COVID. So they got the vaccination and were still disqualified. That doesn't.
Why would they even be tested?
Well, you can.
Why would they even be tested if
they're
vaccinated?
You can go with that too, but I think it's a blanket policy of everyone gets tested. Because if that's the case, then Coach Avant said, "Hey, I'm not going to tell you what our testing protocols are. Basically, that's none of your business," and that's exactly what he should say. And if he were my son's coach, I would be sending him a thank you note for that. Don't be telling people about what my son has done or what my son hasn't done. Very good, coach. It's what you're supposed to do. He's looking out for the best interest of his players. He caught heat for that from some folks. But the reality is that I would tell my kids, I'd want the kids to get vaccinated. But on the other hand, if you still have that, then what does it matter? In the end, you're going to get messed up anyway. It's just stupid, man. What they did to NC State is silly.
It is. It's embarrassing, to be honest with you. But I just wanted to make one more point, man.
Sure.
It just sucks that it's the NC State because when's the last time you heard of NC State playing for a championship in any sport? And I know Mississippi State's never won a national championship in any sports, but I mean, especially NC
women's
State,
basketball is pretty good at NC State now. We're not going to knock the Wolfpack today, but I agree with you. Hey, man, you're down there in Louisiana. Let me ask you something. Are they going to fire Coach O? You're down there a little bit closer than I am because from the outside looking in, he's looking pretty stupid right now.
Yeah, it's not. It's So if we're talking about off the field, yes, he will be eventually fired for the Title IX investigation. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about on the field, I know directly if he doesn't win 9 games this year and make it to a New Year's Six bowl, he will be fired. But I personally think eventually, even if he wins a national championship, I think this Title IX investigation will get him fired eventually. Yes, and I do think it'll be this year. Yeah.
All right, Randall calling us from down in Louisiana. Hey, man, you're always welcome on the program. Thank you so much.
All right, bud.
All right,
there
you go. All right, well, maybe he's right. Jerome last night made a comment on my podcast I do saying, I hope Coach Orgeron has to go to court and defend himself and the jury doesn't understand him. That is absolutely hilarious from Jerome over there in the chat room. You can find great comments like that. Fox Sports Radio 1400 Facebook page. Follow us over there. All right, quick break. We come back. We'll wrap up this episode of The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. Let's see here. Something I want to do. And Began, I've met Began. You live down in Jacksonville, right? I don't know if you can help me with this or not. I want to go to some of these Georgia high school games this year. There's so much talent down there in Georgia. I want to go check some of those out. And by the way, while you're here, I don't know who blocked you from the room the other night, but I want you to make sure you know it wasn't me. I wouldn't do that to you. Would not do that to you, sir. And whoever did, to hell with them. And if we find out who did it, that's not going to work out well. We will boot them forever. It's not going to work. I did get the vaccine. I got the Pfizer vaccine. Yeah, I think that's what I got. The 2-shot vaccine from Pfizer. Now, I don't even know why I would do that now. It's a mess. If you watch Jackpot's videos, Brandon, that's the one he was pretty much with that. Really was. I don't think it was you, Brock. I really don't think it was you. I just, somebody blocked him, and that wasn't cool. We need people that don't think like we do all the time. You know? By the way, for folks over there that follow the show, we have the comrade with us. He is going to do the Pick'em challenge with us. So I don't think he's going to come on the show, but he's going to pick. He's going to pick in the challenge. He's going to donate his $20 for me to win. That fool cannot pick games. He can pick NFL games. He was at like 70% last year at one point with the NFL, but his college games are terrible. You know, I got to stop giving you so much crap, Began. You live in freaking Gainesville. Do you wear your Georgia hat out? Ugh. I have no clue who blocked you, brother. I just want to make sure you understand I didn't do it. And if I did block you, I would tell you. Because and I'd tell you why I did it, but I don't block people. Racial slurs, and that's about it. That's about it. Here we go. Final segment of the rundown this afternoon here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Appreciate the folks joining us online. Alan says Coach Mullen is done as well. I think he's talking about Coach Mullen down at in Gainesville. Coach Orgeron, man, I wonder if they're just trying to figure out something down at LSU because, I think they want the team to play well, but on the other end, if they slip up just a little bit, let's say they finish 7-5 or 8-4, they can tell him, you know what, we're going to have to get rid of you, but we're going to get rid of you because of the Title IX stuff. If he wins a national title, man, I'm not saying he will. I'm just saying if the world lines up, Alabama has some issues and LSU gets and they have talent, so it's not slipping into a national title. But if they win the national title, that's going to make things really hard on them. Really, really hard on them down there at LSU. And here's the other thing, too. Will this be something where Coach Orgeron takes a year off and then resurfaces? Who's going to be the AD that says, you know what, this guy had some issues, but you know what? The guy won a national title. I want the guy that can lead men because he's proven he can do that. He can get those young men fired up to play hard. We know that. So there's that too. With Coach Mullen down at Florida, though, if it comes down to him, if he leaves, I think he's going to the NFL. I don't think he wants to coach anymore at Florida, to be honest. Just the vibe that I get. I don't know anything. I may get former Florida tight end Ben Troop on the show because he's really close with the program down there. Had a great relationship with Kyle Pitts. May get him on the show just to talk a little bit about Florida and see where he goes from there on that, because the vibe that I get, and it's just the way that he acts, then me from afar, I get the feeling he just doesn't want to be in down there in Gainesville anymore. So we'll see how that works out. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Some folks in the chat room having some fun. Jordan says the ACC has a couple of coaches on the hot seat. Justin Fuente, if he doesn't win 8 games, he's gone at Virginia Tech. Dino Babers, yes, I think that we've interviewed, I think, Dino Babers twice on the program, and he's one of those guys you just feel like he's your brother, like you could talk with him forever. We may have him on the show at ACC Media Days. We'll find out. And Scott Satterfield, yeah, man, the shine has come off of Satterfield, who went up to Appalachian State, built them into something, left that program, and then Coach Drinkowitz takes over, has his season there, and then turns that into the Mizzou job. But he goes to Louisville and can't really get it done. So, yeah, I think that all those guys are kind of on the hot seat as well. So good stuff there. Appreciate that from Jordan, I think, wrote that. Brandon says, didn't Louisville get upset last year with Satterfield because he interviewed for the South Carolina job? We have record from the state newspaper that he did have, there were emails, etc. So there's that. So we'll see how that works out. I think those 3 right there are definitely in the mix, but I think next year we're going to be talking about Fuente coaching somewhere else. A couple other notes before we get out of here. Florida State has been a gong show of a program for a while now, but are they making the move? And the way you look at, way I look at making the move is their recruiting class. I think they're inside the top 10 right now. Watch out for Florida State, not this year, but are they regaining their stripes a little bit? Can you imagine if Clemson and Florida State, if Florida State can get back to a point where they're nationally respectable again, and that battle in the Atlantic is for basically a shot in the CFP playoff, because you're going to get to go to the ACC championship if you win that matchup. Florida State gets back to it. That's going to be interesting. And Miami needs to do their part if for the ACC on the other side. Make the Coastal Division worth something. The Coastal Chaos thing sounds fun, but in reality, it's not the greatest thing ever. Consistency is what wins you some stuff over there. And they don't have anybody that's consistent. All right, tomorrow on the program, pro wrestling writer Mike Mooneyham joins us. Why are we talking pro wrestling? Because I like Mike Mooneyham. And if you like people that can tell you a good story, tune in tomorrow to listen to Mike Mooneyham as we talk some pro wrestling. He, of course, from back in the days of Ric Flair down at Charleston Hall and all that. Yeah, we're going to talk about stuff like that tomorrow here on the Rundown. And then Wes Bryant joins us on Wednesday from the ACC Digital Network, the former Wake Forest offensive lineman and sneakerhead. Man's got more sneakers than anything. Yeah, Wes Bryant joins us here on the program. We'll talk with him as well. So that's what we're looking forward to over the next couple of days. I am taking off Thursday and Friday. People like, you just got off vacation. I'm doing some work with a couple of stations down in Charleston on Thursday and Friday. I'll be back on Tuesday. We're taking off July 5th. So Tuesday and Wednesday show this week, then off for a couple of days. Don't forget, my buddy Lawton Swan is up next. He is the czar of Clemson sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
I haven't played that in a couple days.
Stop looking at me,
there
Swan.
There we go. That makes me happy. listen to Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan, the czar of Clemson Sports. He'll have everything you need. You can find it on the iHeartRadio app if you're watching on YouTube today. You can also catch it on the Fox Sports Radio Facebook page, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Alan giving me grief because I'm wearing a singlet. I don't wear a singlet until the 15th. Come on now. All right, we're back at it tomorrow on the Rundown. Thanks for making us a part of your day here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Let's see here. Consistency in the Coastal will do a lot for the perception of the ACC when there's a clear pecking order. Yeah, we could throw darts and make an argument that this team's going to win the Coastal. Beg and Megan, normally you say a lot of silly things, but we'll put that up here. Everybody take notice. A viable comment from Beg and Megan. You're exactly right. I think he wants, but it seems like he wants an NFL job. I kind of believe that. Anyway, if you guys have questions for Mike Mooneyham, any wrestling questions, send them my way because we're going to talk about that. See how that works. Well, Cutcliffe's a good point too there, Jimmy. You're right about that. All right. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. We'll talk to you then.